Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the State of the Program series on the Crossover U College Hoops Talk podcast. We're your hosts, Kanaye and Josh, and today we're going to be talking about the Illinois Fighting Illini. We're going to talk about what Brad Underwood's squad has lost from this past season, what they've added for this upcoming one, how we feel about Brad Underwood's coaching, and just where Illinois stacks up in both the Big Ten and on the national scale going into next season. Just what the vibes are if you're a fan of Champaign for this upcoming season. But before we get into that, I feel like this podcast or anything you else see on this channel really goes a long way if you guys engage with our videos in any way you can, whether it's liking, subscribing to our channel, or just telling others about us. It goes a long way with growing what we do here at the Crossover. So let's start with what Illinois has lost. They did lose some core bench guys, but in terms of the losses they were able to control, wasn't the end of the world. Kasparis Jakubowiak and Will Riley, they lost to the first round of the NBA draft. Not all too much you could have done there. They are losing Trey White, along with Merez Johnson, Draw Gibbs, Lawhorn, which, again, were some really important depth pieces they had for this past season. Definitely some guys they could have gotten back, specifically Trey White, Merez Johnson, I definitely think were ones worth keeping around. Of course, that's not what ended up happening. But I do think, considering what they brought in, these losses are by no means the end of the world.
Yeah, it's really not bad, especially considering the other places we've covered. Kasparis and Riley were guaranteed, but White, Merez, and Gibbs, Lawhorn were all very good depth bench pieces. Merez and Trey White could have started next year, so there is a little bit of a concern there, but it's not atrocious. I think a 7 is fair just because you are still losing majority of your points per game, but this is a very replaceable set.
Yeah, no, I was also going to go 7 there too for a lot of the reasons you said. Now, this is where it gets really exciting if you're an Illini fan, that being the ads. Of course, everyone has come out on social media and seen and promoted what is the Balkan 5. Brad Underwood has gone fully international in the players he's brought in both the transfer portal and in the international recruiting tail. I do feel it is important. Let's talk about what they were able to recruit first. Those guys being Tomislav Ivizic, who was a starting center this past year. I'm sure will fill that same role once again. Kylan Boswell, I fully expect to run it back as a starting shooting guard. You are bringing back Ben Humrichis as along with Jake Davis. Ty Rogers is hurt right now. I do believe he is trying to come back mid-season, but it definitely hurts losing a guy who's a big culture program piece, brings really great defense. He's someone you could throw out on the other team's best perimeter offensive player. It does hurt a lot losing a guy like that who means so much to the locker room. But the transfers and international freshman ads is where it gets really excited. We're bringing in Andrei Stojakovic, who averaged 18 points per game at Cal this past year. Zvonimir Ivizic, who is Tomislav's brother, played at Kentucky and Arkansas for Coach Cal, is now joining his big pro at to play for Brad Underwood and Fighting Illini. And then on the international recruiting tail, we're bringing in Blake Vagmami, Mihailo Petrovic, and David Murkovic. Sorry if I pronounced those wrong, my mistake. But those are some guys I'm really, really excited for.
Yeah, there is definitely a huge change. And this is just a big NCAA D1 mix because the big talk right now is international prospects. We're seeing with guys like Omar Meyer and Dame Sarr, but Illinois is Project, I guess, Balkan, if we really want to go for it. There is just so much interestingness to go with it because you are merging guys who have already played in the college basketball sphere, particularly the Ivizic brothers and Stojakovic, but also Petrovic and Murkovic haven't done this before. This is a completely different change. I do love keeping Ben, but he was great off the bench last year. He honestly can stay in a very similar role, if not even more defined, and I like the depth that they're keeping. Hopefully, Ty Rogers coming back. He was a great piece in that 2023-2024 season, and Boswell was always going to be that guy. He was great at Arizona. He was great last year at Illinois. This is honestly a slam dunk of a offseason for Underwood. I kind of want to lean an 8. I'm fine with the 7.
No, I like an 8 here. I'm really high. I've heard amazing things about some of the international guys they're bringing in, like Mihailo Petrovic. I've heard great things. I'm under the assumption, based off what I've heard, that he will be running point for them this year. David Murkovic, I've heard amazing things, along with what I've heard about Petrovic as well. I'm really excited to see if this international project works. And I honestly think, on paper, I'm willing to definitely give them an 8 here.
Easily, I can see that.
Now, before we talk about Brad Underwood, I think it's important that we talk about who we think will be starting for the Fighting Illini this year. Me and Josh have decided that we think a combination of Mihailo Petrovic, Kylan Boswell, Andrei Stojakovic, Zvonimir Vizic, and his bro Tomislav will round out the starting five for them. So nearly a starting five of Balkans. Kylan Boswell is the one non-Balkan in there, but again, I think that's a really solid starting lineup. You consider Petrovic averaged around 14 points per game overseas. Kylan averaged 12 this past year. Andre averaged 18. He is stepping up a level, going to the Big Ten at a school that does have a chance to contend as opposed to what Cal was in the ACC. Big Z, I still think, has a chance to make a big jump now. He's no longer playing for Cal, who tends to favor his guards more. And Tomislav had a solid year, averaging 13 last year. I think this is one of the better starting lineups in both the Big Ten and in the country.
I really do like just a ceiling that they can have. But let's turn over to coaching. Brad Underwood's always been a big question in the Big Ten. He's the type of guy that can have a really good season or honestly a bad season. He's kind of like the Big 12 version of Tommy, or the Big 10 version of Tommy Lloyd. I don't really trust him on most years. He can occasionally win the big game, but we've seen him go on spurts of losing streaks and not really performing well in the tournament. I don't think he's made an Elite Eight in his career at Illinois, and I don't know if that's anything he ever will accomplish. This might be the team for it, but I think he, in a small way, lowers them back.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about Brad Underwood. He did make an Elite Eight in 23-24. That was when they ran into UConn and gave up that 30-0 run, where their entire game plan was to go right at Donovan Clingan, who was the best defensive big man in the country that year. So I don't know game plan wise what the thought process was there. So maybe I hold that still against Brad Underwood. But I do think, like you mentioned, Brad Underwood has good moments in the regular season. Kind of has yet to have that signature win in the postseason for sure. But in terms of what he's done as a recruiter, especially in the international tail, he's hit on almost every international prospect he's plucked from overseas. You look back 2 years ago, Marcus Damas was a hit. Last year, Kasparis was a pleasant surprise. If you're going based off of those, then it looks really good going to this year. But again, I do worry about how much higher can his ceiling go as a coach. I feel he's a lot better as a regular season coach than a postseason.
I want to give him a 6. I feel like he can be great. We just don't really know, and this is a huge question mark of the roster. There's never been a roster like this ever assembled in the D1 sphere, and I don't know if even a guy like Underwood can manage with it.
Yeah, he's most definitely taking a big risk here. I will say, I think the last 2 years of Illini basketball has been transformational for that program, and because he is building what seems to be a solid foundation for what he wants as a winning culture in Champaign. I do think right now, though, based off what we've seen out of him, I think a 6 would be fair to score.
Yeah, but there's a lot of room to grow.
Definitely, for sure. Now, to get into where they stack up in the Big Ten, I honestly see them as a top 4 team in the preseason in the Big 12 poll. In my eyes, I honestly like their roster more than Michigan's. I think they're going to finish higher than Michigan in the Big Ten. I honestly think they have a run. They could definitely go on a run and finish second in the Big Ten, only behind Purdue.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the ceiling talk here. I don't really know, and I'm not like super convinced. Once again, the question marks on how the international prospects will immediately jump in concerns me. And the Big Ten is no joke. It never really was to begin with. Once again, Purdue's in a tier of its own, but I could see Michigan succumbing to an Illinois rise. Michigan State is probably on that similar level as well. I kind of want to give this also a 6, just because 4 doesn't really sound the best, even in the Big Ten. There is that, but the ceiling is nice. The ceiling is super nice, if you're going to ask me.
Yeah, the ceiling's really high in the Big Ten. Like I said, I think they do have a chance to finish second in the conference, but the floor is low, especially if you miss on all of these international prospects and make me look like a complete idiot for believing in them. I do think a 6 is fair. Opening up as probably the 4th team in that preseason poll in the Big Ten. Probably doesn't look all too attractive in the eyes of if you have a lot of college basketball watchers and fans. But what are the vibes going to in Champaign, Illinois?
I think it's fun vibes.
I think they're really high, man. Personally, I honestly think if these international prospects are hits for Brad Underwood, they have a ceiling of a Final Four. I
I
don't think
100% agree.
I don't think they can win a national championship, but I think they can make a Final Four. I definitely think they can make a second weekend. I think they will make a second weekend. But it's fun. I mean, Brad Underwood's even having fun with it too. You've seen the AI photos of Brad Underwood in the orange jump sweatsuit with the cigarette in his mouth behind the likes of Petrovic, Stojakovic, the Visage brothers. And he's even came out and said, like, hey, I'd love to recreate that photo in real life. You give me the you give me the sweats, the tracksuit, give me the cigarette. I'll get the guys. We'll take the photo, and I'm here for it. I would love if Slam U comes out, gets that photo for them. That would be awesome. I think vibes are so high.
Vibes are definitely high. This has been a really upturn of a year for them, considering they hit on Kasparis, they hit on Marcus Demands, and not that I'm saying that he can't miss, but I do feel like at the end of the day, a majority of these picks, especially Petrovic, will be success stories. Stojakovic himself can rise into a first round pick for next year's draft. I like what you're talking about the Final Four. This is a sneaky, sneaky good team that I will be watching every single minute of. The question marks are 100% there, though. I think it's a little bit absurd to ignore it, no offense, but this has never happened before. And you want to run into the new world. You want to run into the idea that international prospects and just this interesting connective group could really do it all. And I love to see it. I really hope it does happen and that this changes college basketball for a long time coming, because I do think the international wave is really starting to hit, and this is the year that it will begin. But I'm not like incredibly convinced. I think a 7 is just about fair.
I want to go 8 here. I'm not going to lie. I love the points you hit on, how the success of this team is really going to determine roster construction in the future years to come, where they see the surplus of international players playing together all works. A lot of guys are going to go, I mean, a lot of programs, I should say, are going to go pluck guys from overseas who have professional experience playing against pro players in whatever countries these kids might be coming over from, over maybe a freshman who's never played college basketball or only played against high school competition, of course. And I will say, as a UConn fan, I'm so excited for that Black Friday matchup at Madison Square Garden against Illinois. I think that will be a great test for both teams. If Illinois is hitting their stride with these international guys, it's going to be a good test for UConn. Vice versa, Illinois, if they're rolling at the time, I think UConn will be a good test for them. I do like Illinois' out of conference schedule. It's not crazy strong. They are playing Texas Tech, Alabama, UConn, Tennessee, Missouri. So definitely some solid games on that schedule for them. Would you be willing to come up 2-8 here, or?
There are some questions. Once again, I think the biggest problem I have is if this falls flat in its face.
Right.
If the ceiling for
That's
the
true.
brothers is what we have right now, and Petrovic and Mirkovic aren't what we expect, this ruins the entire international prospects.
I suppose that's true.
And a lot of it can be blamed on Illinois. So there is that to consider. I'm not against the 8.
I'll go 7.
I think just the air of caution, because this is a big question mark of a move. I like that out of all the people that are doing it, it's Brad Underwood and it's Illinois to go for it. I love to see just how much the program has been transformed due to this. But I want to hold it on the brakes until then. I love this team, but I'm just not ready to get into it just yet.
Yeah, I definitely hear you out there. I think a lot of people who cover the sport are definitely in the same boat as you. I'm very, very excited. Maybe I'm letting that blind me a little bit from what could end up being, like you said, the wheels falling off the wagon here. But I think that's pretty much going to take care of everything we had on this episode today of the State of Program series. Really excited. This is a team that both me and Josh have circled as a team we will be avidly watching this year. I'm really excited for them. I'm sure Brad Underwood is too. I really hope that photo does get recreated in real life. I'll definitely be able to look out for that. That's going to be awesome if that drops. Definitely we'll have to. We might even have to make a video about it if that actually does end up happening. But as always, it goes a long way if you gauge their content any way you can. And until next episode, we'll see you all next time.